Just how concerned are you? This is highest in 9 years. Inflation keeps rearing its ugly head.
Well, we know where it's coming from, and we are confident that we can weather the storms, but we are not complacent. We know that our inflation, a large part of it is imported. It comes from the increased price of oil. It comes from the depreciation of our peso because of the trade concerns, and the markets are pricing currencies because of their added risks. And of course, these factors have depreciated the peso and helped increase prices in the Philippines. We also know that part of our problem is the weather has damaged a lot of our rice crops and have driven rice prices up. So we are handling that end by removing the restrictions and make it easier for people to import food and rice. So that should handle that. The central bank, of course, is taking care of the monetary policy, and we're very confident that they have this in hand.
So when do you see inflation easing? Because there have been some disappointment on the part of the corporates, for instance, that the government has yet to address the issue.
Oh, no, that's absolutely not right. We have been addressing the issue since May. The central bank has, since May, increased our interest rates by 150 basis points, and which is, I believe, appropriate. And we have taken strong action to increase the supply of food, which is the main driver of our inflation domestically.
How much more aggressive do you think the central bank needs to be?
Well, I'm a member of the Monetary Board, and our tradition is, and I think it's right, that we look at the data and act according to what the data tells us. We will act appropriately depending on what the data shows. If more aggressive actions are required, we will take it. If not, we will ease off.
You seem to be upbeat, optimistic that the inflation issue can be addressed, but some say that high inflation will persist through 2019 given where oil prices are headed.
Well, the oil prices certainly are not helping, okay? And we know that between now, oil prices have already exceeded $80, and that the futures up to the end of the year are somewhere around the $82, $83 level. We trust that, people will back off on these sanctions against Iran, and probably people will help Venezuela get their production up again so that oil prices will ease.
Secretary, how was growth in the third quarter, and what kind of growth are you anticipating? Do you expect rising interest rates to, at some point, impact growth?
Definitely, rising interest rates will have a detrimental effect on our growth prospects, but we're still expecting around 6.5% growth for the whole year. We are very confident that our Build program is counter-cyclical and that we can afford it. We have raised revenues to fund our program, as well as we have a tremendous amount of ODA support from China, Japan, and South Korea.
But why the optimism when exports are getting hit even with the peso at such a low level?
Philippines is not a big trading country. Our exports help, but actually our growth prospects are going to be driven by domestic investments. And it's been shown that our FDI has been increasing. Our FDI in 2017 was twice what it was in 2015. It was up to $10 billion. The latest figures, which were published today, show that our FDI up to July is 50% higher than the same period, the same 7-month period in 2017. So we are seeing greater foreign investment in the Philippines.
Are you concerned about the weakening peso, the peso at 13-year lows?
Well, the peso is doing what it is supposed to do, okay?
Which is what?
Which is to float and absorb the shocks. So we don't want it to, we don't want these pressures to build up and not be reflected in the interest rates or the exchange rate. And that's just a good way to have a big shock in the future.
But in your view, what is fair value for the Philippine peso? Some say it's undervalued by 65%.
Well, I will let the markets determine that, okay? What the
Are you comfortable with where the peso is?
Yes, we are comfortable. It's doing what it is supposed to do. It's supposed to adjust to the external pressures, and it's doing exactly that.
Now, the currencies in emerging markets pretty much been impacted by the weakening yuan as well. And today, Stephen Mnuchin has taken issue with China, saying that perhaps China is instigating the weakness of the currency. What's your take on that?
Well, when you restrict somebody's exports to you and the value of his currency drops, that's to be expected, isn't it? I don't know why he's so surprised at that, and I don't know if it works. I'm not sure whether China is deliberately doing this, but I doubt it. I think it's just reacting to the market, to the signals the markets are giving. The U.S. is putting all kinds of tariffs on Chinese products, so people are expecting Chinese foreign revenue to drop. Of course, their currency will drop. It's natural.
How is the Philippines preparing for a prolonged U.S. China trade war? Because WTO Director General said yesterday that a prolonged trade war would affect perhaps 17.5% of output. That would impact the rest of the world.
Definitely, a prolonged trade war will eventually impact us. However, let me just point out that the Philippines is in a very good position to weather these storms. First of all, we have a very healthy gross international reserve position. We have a very healthy banking system. We passed tax reform that increased our revenues almost 20% as compared to last year in anticipation of our Build, Build, Build program. And our Build, Build, Build program is actually gathering momentum. And we are going to use that, our domestic spending, as counter-cyclical measures to sustain our growth.
I want to touch on your bond issuances. The Philippines has rejected all bids for its 10-year bills. Can it afford to continue to reject
Philippines?
All these bids?
Yes, we can. You know, we just did a $1.4 billion bond issue in Japan. And by the way, that was only 35 basis points spread. And we're in a very comfortable cash position. Now, if we actually, at some points, we accept some bond issues, that's only to indicate the price in the market, not necessarily because we need the funds.